And welcome. Good evening and welcome to the December 12th, 2024 special meeting of San Diego Community Power Board of Directors. I'm Joe LaCava, Chair of the Board and representative for the City of San Diego. We welcome the members of the public, community power staff, and board members joining us in person today at the Port of San Diego Administration Building, as well as those that are participating remotely. I will now call the December 12th, 2024 special meeting of the Board of Directors of San Diego Community Power to order. Mari, will you please call the roll?
Director Aguirre?
Here.
Director Cáceres?
Here.
Director McCann?
Present.
Alternate Director Bush?
Here.
Chair LaCava?
Present.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
And I believe Alternative Director Bush needs to make a statement.
I will make it for him, Mr. Chair.
Oh, yeah, then I'll, I guess, second it.
Alternate Director Bush is participating in today's meeting remotely under recent amendments to the Brown Act, AB 2449, due to just cause. Mr. Bush, is there someone with you 18 years or older?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, Mr. Bush, for joining in. So we have a quorum. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand, face the flag, hand over your heart. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, we will begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the greater San Diego region. A land acknowledgement is a critical step toward working with Native communities to create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. I ask each of you to honor these ancestral grounds that were those traditional lands of the Kumeyaay. And with that, as we traditionally do, we welcome new community power staff. And I believe we have a new finance manager, Frank Alfaro.
Hi, good evening, Chair LaCava, Board of Directors, and the community at large. My name is Mark Alfaro. I'm the new finance manager at San Diego Community Power, overseeing the regional energy network financials and budget. I come to you as a native San Diegan. I grew up in Chula Vista, South Bay. Go Barons. I went to Bonita Vista High School and San Diego State. I've spent the last 17 years of my career supporting utilities. I'm privileged to have been able to have an experience where I've been involved in construction projects as well as programs that hit our neighborhoods and our communities, from low-income programs to energy efficiency and time of use rates. With that being said, I'm very excited to be a part of San Diego Community Power, as well as helping our communities at large with all of these great programs that are offering. Thank you very much.
Nice to be here. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Then I'll take a moment to welcome the City of La Mesa's interim director, Lauren Cazares. The interim director Cazares is a newly elected council member serving the City of La Mesa and brings a wealth of public policy experience for a new role. She has also been serving on Community Power's Community Advisory Committee, very familiar with our mission. On behalf of San Diego Community Power, I'd like to welcome you to your first Board of Directors meeting. And I look forward to working together for the benefit of Community Power, La Mesa, and our member cities. Would you like to say a few words?
I just wanted to say that I'm really happy to be here. I really believe in the mission of San Diego Community Power. That's why I've been involved with the Community Advisory Committee. And I'm also a lifelong La Mesan and really honored to be serving the City of La Mesa. So glad to be here with you all tonight.
Well, congratulations on your election and welcome aboard. All right, now getting on to the agenda. Are there any items to be added, withdrawn, or reordered on the agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. So we will start with non-agenda public comment. I want to note that written public comments submitted before the board meeting were emailed to all directors prior to the board meeting and will be posted on the website at the beginning of the meeting. This is non-agenda public comment. Mari, do we have any?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. so we'll move quickly on to the consent calendar, which includes items 1 through 12. Approve the November 21st meeting minutes, and then receive and file several reports, including the treasurer's report, an update on programs, update on power resources, update on customer operations, update on human relations, update on marketing, public relations, and local government affairs, update on regulatory and legislative affairs, update on community advisory committee, update on San Diego Community Power Network request for qualifications. Number 11 is adoption of a resolution 2024-12, a resolution of the Board of Directors of San Diego Community Power designating dates, time, and location for regular meetings for calendar year 2025. And item 12, which is annual energy usage voting share update. Are there any directors that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? All right, not hearing any. Mari, do we have any public comment on the 12 consent items?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next. So I'll turn it over to the board members for any comments or a motion on the consent.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar, items 1 through 12. So move.
I'll second.
And a second by Director Aguirre. So we have a motion by Director McCann to move the 12 items on consent, and a second by Director Aguirre. So Mari, please call the vote.
Director Aguirre?
Yes.
Director Casares?
Yes.
Director McCann?
Aye.
Alternate Director Bush?
Yes.
Chair LaCava?
Yep.
It passes, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 13, which is approve a contract in substantially similar form to attachment A for the Enterprise Data Platform, EDP, development and deployment with Harmon Connected Services for a not to exceed amount of $850,000 over 12 months, and authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute the contract. I'll turn this over to staff. So please introduce yourself for the record. Begin when you're ready.
Good evening, Board and Chair. I am Ryan Hankey, Data Analytics Manager for Community Power. Great job with that really long item number. It is my pleasure to present this item to you tonight for the development of an enterprise data platform. Next slide, please. And what is this enterprise data platform? It's pretty simple, as you can see by the sample architecture up there. I will try and keep it short and sweet to move along here. But in short, this is the secure cloud data platform where we will be storing and analyzing and working with all of our data related to customer data and meter data. And this will be important to centralize the data from all the different vendors and platforms and sources we use into a single area that we can work with it. This will help us to better understand our customers, our revenue, our load, and how they all interact. So we can retain our customers, collect revenue, and make more informed decisions to support our customers. Next slide. We have been working on this for a long time, and it's very important to us. And the RFP was launched in August. We were very fortunate to have a good number of high-quality proposals, and we moved the top 4 into an interview stage. So we had 4 interviews with them and went back and forth with the various proposers and ask questions back and forth, really to learn their capabilities, what they can do for us, and really help it make it for us. And after careful evaluation, there was one that offered the best fit, expertise, and value for Community Power. Next slide, please. And that was Harmon Connected Services, Inc. We are very proud to announce the selection of Harmon Connected Services, Inc. They are a leader and trusted expert in building data platforms for customers of all different sizes, all different industries, and including in the energy industry. we're very excited to work with them and their highly skilled staff to help us accomplish our goals. Next slide. So here's the scope that's also in the contract, but they'll be doing a lot of things. One thing to highlight here is there'll be kind of two phases. One, building things out for us, and the other stage, helping us to be able to accomplish that in the future. So this is not a subscription service. They will be building this platform for SDCP to own and operate after the contract is over. So that's very important that we don't have ongoing licensing costs to this vendor. They will be using the tools, and we'll be handling the licenses on our own so that we maintain control of it. And that's very important to us. Yeah, and along the way, they'll be working with us to train and make sure that we can continue to grow and scale this and integrate with all the other parts of our business or organization. Next slide, please. In terms of timing, work will be starting very soon. The goal is to have the project complete by the end of 2025. It may be sooner if we can get there sooner, but it will be done in phases. So there'll be iterations as soon as we can start getting those done, and they're prioritized. So we'll get the most important things in first so we can really get in there and start using and supporting SDCP throughout the way. So, next slide, please. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. So the recommendation is, staff recommendation is to approve. So happy to answer any questions you have this time.
Thank you for that, Ryan. Mari, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'll turn it over to the board for any questions or comments, and we will need a motion on this item.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to make a motion on item number 13. So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Director McCann, a second by alternate Director Cazares. I'm not seeing any other hands up and not seeing anybody remotely. Mari, please call the vote.
Director Aguirre,
Yes.
Director Cáceres,
Yes.
Director McCann,
Aye.
Alternate Director Bush,
Yes.
Chair LaCava.
Yes,
It passes, Mr. Chair.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up the bat is item 14, which is to approve a contract with the San Diego Padres for marketing, promotional, outreach, education, and other sponsorship-related activities in an amount not to exceed $882,700 from January 1st, 2025 through October 31st, 2027, and authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute the contract. And I'll turn over to staff. Please introduce yourself for the record and get it out of the park.
Thank you, Chair LaCava. Appreciate the pun. My name is Lee Friedman. I'm the Senior Manager of Strategic Partnerships at San Diego Community Power, and I am honored to bring forward this item for you today. Move to the next slide. So this is a continuation of a fantastic partnership that we have with the San Diego Padres. We first entered into a half-season partnership with the Padres back in 2021, and since then have grown our partnership successfully year after year, and now are recommending a 3-year partnership over the next 3 seasons from 2025 to 2027. This has been, a great partnership. San Diego Padres are a Power 100 champion. On top of that, Petco Park is the first stadium, and I think still the only, that's 100% powered by renewable energy in the National League. So a jewel of the city and of the region, and certainly something that we're very proud of to provide that power. Next slide, please. I want to go over a bit of a recap of the 2023 season. As you may have followed along, for you Padre fans out there, the Padres have continued to grow in their success starting back in 2019. And in 2023, average attendance was just shy of 34,000 in each game. Almost 3.2 million fans attended San Diego Padres games in 2023. 78% of them, this is over 23 and 24, buying tickets from within San Diego County zip code. So this is a lot of locals are showing up to these games. Padres ranked number 1 is attendance based on park capacity, and number 2 in total attendance in the MLB. And media engagement remains highly ranked across MLB, with the Padres having number 2 follower engagement, and Instagram with 1.1 million followers. We have several assets as part of our sponsorship deal with the Padres, including video and grandstand bugs and fixed home plate pad signs. That we are also continuing to be the sponsors of Tonight Lights during the pregame show, where the Padres announced that San Diego Community Power powers Petco Park with 100% renewable power. Next slide, please. As you can see here, we have some pictures from the Tonight Lights pregame LED, as well as some other assets from 2023, including the 40,000 snapback performance hats that were given away. You may have seen these out and about town. Anecdotally, whenever I go downtown, I end up seeing at least one person wearing a San Diego Community Power sponsored Padres hat. We'll have a little bit of a treat for you later in this presentation. During this on social media, posts and email blasts, really great open rate and total click-through. So we're getting great engagement from fans looking into the work that we're doing with the Padres. And then during the 2023 season, we had a new asset come online, which was the Community Power Crowd Noise Meter. So if you've been to a game and got to see it, it's a pretty great sight. Really gets the crowd pumped up. Next slide, please. We also did a press conference in 2023 around San Diego Padres being a Power 100 champion. Had a great opportunity to have leadership with the Padres, with San Diego Community Power, as well as the local, the Regional Chamber of Commerce attend and sign a jersey, which hangs proudly in our office. Got some great press out of that, and each year during Earth Day, we continue to share the information about the Padres being a Power 100 champion, which gets great engagement. Next slide. Moving on to 2024. Again, for those fans in here, that was quite a season. Started off a little bit slow, but picked it up. So I was looking at our representative I forgot to introduce before, Will Grant with the Padres. But really happy that we were able to end the season, making it into the postseason. Again, increased attendance overall, up to nearly 41,000 per game, which set multiple franchise records. Still ranked number 1 in attendance based on park capacity, and over 3.3 million folks in attendance from across the region. Some assets that we had in 2023, as you remember, we negotiated a 2-year contract last time, so you'll see the similar assets from 2024 that we had in 2023. Next slide, please. Including the pregame show, social media posts, and the crowd noise meter. For 2024, though, we did have a different design on the hat, the retro 84 throwback hat, my personal favorite. Again, 40,000 units sent out and now bopping around town, acting as little billboards for San Diego Community Power. Next slide. We also were able to get some really great branding about San Diego Community Power and the Padres being Power 100 champions within the stadium itself. So you may have seen along all the escalator signage saying that this park is powered by 100% renewable power, as well as that branding on the L bar in the in-game or on the in-stadium TVs during games. Something to note here is that a lot of these metrics are just focused on the season, on Padres games, but this physical signage that exists within Petco Park is seen throughout the year at events that are not hosted by the Padres. So that's hundreds of thousands of more folks, San Diegans, who are going to concerts and other events at Petco Park who are seeing this permanent signage. Next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've negotiated for the 2025 and through the 2027 season. 2 new things that we're actually really excited about. One of the areas of focus that our team has made over the last year is trying to get more engagement with the youth, making sure that we're presenting ourselves to folks as they're learning about power and hopefully ingratiating ourselves when they're a little bit younger, and generally that helps with families as well when they're trying to think about how their energy usage affects their lives. So one of the things we're really excited about is creating a San Diego section in Petco Park and being the presenting sponsor of the high school baseball and softball display. We'll receive branding on permanent signage display, as well as being a presenting partner for the Padres High School All-Star Game and Home Run Derby, as well as the Padres High School Coach of the Year and co-presenting sponsor Coach of the Week. There are 2 sections within the San Diego section of interactive video screens that we are working to try to get some interactive marketing on as well. So a real great opportunity to engage with fans as they're walking through Petco Park. We're also really focused on, now that we're launching these really successful programs and going to be doing more of that, being able to meet one-on-one with customers. So in previous years, we had an activation kiosk that we would do during our game day giveaway. And for the next 3 seasons, we're recommending and have negotiated with the Padres that during 4 additional games of the year of our mutual choosing, that we can set up an activation kiosk in Petco Park to do additional engagement. We'd probably want to do this around the launch and or marketing of new programs as they come online, as a way to interact with fans directly and allow for that more in-depth discussion, as it takes a little bit more than 5 or 10 seconds to explain to people who we are, what we do, and what programs they can take advantage of. Otherwise, the terms are relatively the same: tonight lights, L-bar branding, fixed home plate padding, the energy meter custom feature. Another giveaway item this year, we're hoping it's another great hat. We'll be working towards that. Email and social media post, as well as a first pitch. We've had some incredible first pitches already. Chair LaCava threw one out during our 2023 season, and our CAC chair, Matt Vasilakis, threw out the first pitch in 2024. We're really excited about this sponsorship. The Padres have been a great partner to San Diego Community Power. When it comes to per impression cost, we're talking about basically 7 cents per impression, which is the industry standard. So we're doing a great job making sure that we're getting value for these contracts, or getting value in this partnership. And that's, again, not even including the permanent signage impressions that we get for people who are going through Petco Park outside of the regular Padres season. I think the next slide is just the end. So before we go, I wanted to point out a really awesome picture right there in the center. For those of you rom-com fans out there, this is a real picture, not edited, from this season of Love is Blind on Netflix, the most streamed show in March in Netflix. You'll see them our logo in prominent display. As a San Diego fan, a new San Diego Padres fan shows off our hat. So, I don't even counting the tens of millions of impressions we got from that alone, but excited to see our branding out there and making an impact in the communities that we serve. Thank you, and go Padres.
There we go. Excellent, excellent. Marty, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. With that, once again, turn it over to the board members for any questions, comments, and a motion.
A motion to approve item 14, go Padres.
All right.
I'm sorry, I have questions here.
Oh, yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Didn't mean to interrupt. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I was hoping to get from the presentation a little bit more information, or a little bit more qualitative information versus quantitative. What is the return on investment that we're getting from these investments? I really appreciated the data of the impressions and the number of audience that we're reaching, but I just want a little bit more qualitative data. Is this resulting in us having an increased customer base, or other types of qualitative data that you can share with me?
Sure. If we want to go back to maybe the first couple slides of the presentation, we do have media value of some of these assets in there. So you can see for the video board and grandstand bugs, media value associated with the exposure of that is within the presentation. When it comes to customer sentiment and the impact on our overall customer base, we haven't done any customer sentiment testing recently that necessarily we could point to, but San Diego Community Power remains one of our strategies is to continue to build relationships with trusted brands within San Diego, and the San Diego Padres remain one of the most trusted brands in the San Diego region. When we look at our total opt-outs, we are still very strong at around 95% participation rate in the region. And it's hard to point to any one single thing as a factor for that. It's a cumulative effect of the work that we're doing in the community with these partnerships and sponsorships, certainly through the work that we do with community outreach and additional engagement that we do, through mailers and public noticing and our social media. So it's hard to say specifically, what section of the public might be influenced just by our partnership with the Padres. But we do know that there is certainly a hard data around the media value that we're getting out of the partnership, including the fact that the Padres are a Power 100 champion, paying that additional, that premium to be at 100% renewable power. But we have just launched a customer survey. We should be getting good data back now. That was included on our power content label, which was mailed out to every single customer in the city of in the region, in our service territory. So I think we're going to be getting back some good data to see sort of what the customer sentiment is around San Diego Community Power.
Thank you for that, Richland. And then, is there a particular reason why it has to be 2-3 years?
Generally speaking, when you can negotiate multiple years, you get an overall discount for the terms. Surety is also just a great way to make sure that we are able to move year after year into these throughout the contract and get the best value possible. When you negotiate a single-year contract, you tend to be competing against more. The Padres, as you know, a very popular team right now. We'd be competing against more folks who are trying to get those same assets that we are. So it is just better value to negotiate a longer-term contract.
And how much is a basic ticket to go to the Padres games?
Maybe I would ask. You want to come up with?
Our pricing is based essentially game by game. So opening day is going to be more expensive than a Monday against the Marlins. So on average, I would say maybe $25 to $30, but it could be, as high as, more than that essentially. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chair. That concludes my questions. I don't want to be the party pooper here in the celebration of the Padres, but I just have reservations about the amount of money that we're spending. I think that we could be spending some of that money different ways in doing community outreach, especially in communities in South Bay that may not be able to continuously afford to go to all the games. So at this point, I don't think I can support the item. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you for your comments. So we do have a motion by Director McCann, and we'll go to alternate Director Cazares.
Sure. I will go ahead and second the motion with some comments, though. My day job has a very strong partnership with the Padres, and we were even mentioned in this presentation. Thank you, Lee. So I just want to be very clear that I'm voting on behalf of the City of La Mesa, not on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. But I do want to say some positive things about about the Padres. I've lived here my entire life. I've been to hundreds of Padres games. A lot of them have actually been through like free tickets that I got, through school, just growing up here, or through, participating in sports growing up. And, as we know, it takes anywhere from 5 to 9, usually the average is about 7 impressions for people to even remember a name. And so I think that this is just really, really strong promotion for the San Diego Community Power brand, especially as we're still newer. As someone who has served on the Community Advisory Committee for the last 2 years, I know that we do a lot of that outreach in our individual communities. But we can only do so much on the advisory committee just because we all have day jobs and, the money is not being spent there. And I do think this is a really actually good use of funding over the number of years. I think it's actually quite a good deal, especially when you consider the hats, and everyone has the hats. I did not get one this year, so I will have to find one. But I did get one last year, and I think the Padres have shown that they are just a premier partner, not just for San Diego Community Power, but for lots of our other organizations doing important work in the region. So very happy to second it on behalf of the city of La Mesa, but just wanted to put those comments out.
All right, thanks. And then I'll add, I think one of the things we have, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're still in the marketing phase, right? We had some folks, businesses that opted out when they were automatically opted in. I know there's still efforts to get them to move from Power On to Power 100. And so to supplement the marketing work that is done by our amazing staff, how do you build that trust and confidence in that with community power really something real for businesses that need electricity, delivered. So this helps say we see them all the time. And like I said, whether it's subliminal or very obvious to them, this gets that. And that's always a tricky question about marketing. How much money you spend on marketing is always an interesting conversation going forward. So with that, unless there's any other questions, we have a motion by Director McCann, a second by alternate Director Cazares on that. So Mari, please call the vote.
Director Aguirre,
No.
Director Cáceres,
Yes.
Director McCann,
Aye.
Alternate Director Bush,
Yes.
Chair LaCava.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Motion carries. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 15, which is approval of allocations from PG&E of greenhouse gas free attributes from the Diablo Canyon Nuclear Power Plant for 2025 through 2030. And I'll turn it over and please introduce yourself for the record.
Good evening, Chair LaCava and Board of Directors and public. My name is Stephen Gunther. I'm a regulatory manager at Community Power. I'll be kicking off the presentation on some of the legislative and regulatory background before passing it off to Byron Vosberg to take us home. Next slide, please. So just first a level set on the resource in question. We're going to be talking about Diablo Canyon Nuclear Power Plant, which is owned and operated by Pacific Gas and Electric, located up in San Luis Obispo County. It's made up of 2 units that have a combined generation capacity of over 2,000 megawatts, which is very significant capacity in the context of the state's total grid. And it began operating in 1985 and was scheduled to be decommissioned this year. However, in 2022, the state legislature passed Senate Bill 846 to extend the operations of the plant to 2030, which Governor Newsom subsequently signed into law. The extension came in the wake of the extreme heat events that occurred in the summer of 2020 that stressed California's grid to the point that there were causing rolling outages. Following that, there were several studies done by state agencies to analyze the grid's reliability, and some of those concluded that if the Diablo Canyon were to be retired as scheduled, there would be a reliability gap without replacing that capacity. And to avoid replacing the capacity with polluting resources like gas plants, the state, with this bill, opted to keep Diablo Canyon open. Now, because the extension was intended to meet the needs of the state as a whole's reliability, the bill authorizes that those costs be collected through a non-bypassable charge applicable to all customers that are served by load-serving entities under the jurisdiction of the California Public Utility Commission. So that includes San Diego Community Power. Next slide, please. So following the bill, the California Public Utility Commission is responsible for the implementation of the bill, and they adopted a decision that directed some of the details around that implementation. So as I mentioned, the costs of the extended operations are borne by all ratepayers throughout the state through that non-bypassable charge. That's allocated to each load-serving entity, including Community Power, through a methodology determined by the commission based on load share. Now, following the or leading up to the final decision, our trade association, CalCCA, argued that if CCA customers are paying for the cost of this plant to remain in operation, then it should follow that the benefits also be allocated to those customers. And ultimately, the commission agreed with that argument and found it fair and reasonable that the benefits be allocated to customers since they're already paying for it. So they identified two separate and distinct benefits. The first is the resource adequacy benefits. So this is the reliability, the capacity. And this was automatically allocated to each load serving entity by reducing our RA obligation. And as we've discussed many times in front of this board, resource adequacy is currently a very expensive resource to purchase, and it's a very tight market right now. So that was a major benefit for our customers since they're already paying for this asset. The second benefit, and this is separate from the resource adequacy, is the greenhouse gas free attributes for reporting purposes on the power content label, which Community Power just recently sent out the 2023 power content label. This is because the California Energy Commission's methodology for calculating GHG emissions from electricity generation for the power content label consider nuclear as a zero-free emitting resource. So that can get reported as a GHG-free resource in the power content label in that mix. So the benefit to claim that carbon-free generation is voluntary for load-serving entities to accept whether or not they want to report that on their power content label and have the implications of reporting that. And that's what we're bringing for your consideration today, since that is a voluntary acceptance. Next slide, please. So very, very briefly, the process is the California Public Utility Commission sends the percentages of the allocations to PG&E based on the load share of each load serving entity. And then PG&E reaches out to each entity, including Community Power, asking whether or not they would like to accept that GHG-free attribute allocation by January 1st of the coming year. So Community Power must elect to accept or deny that allocation for use on its power content label prior to January 1st for the reporting period in 2025, moving forward to 2030. And I just wanted to note that unclaimed allocations, if any, would be unused. So that doesn't mean PG&E would then be able to report on that on their power content label. So that GHG-free attribute would just not be reported on any load serving entities content label. Next slide, please. So just to summarize the impact and the implications of the decision at hand, it will not increase the cost for Community Power customers. They're already paying for the operations of Diablo Canyon through that non-bypassable charge. It does not impact the operations of Diablo Canyon because the state mandated that through that bill that would be operational through 2030. So that is mandated by state law and not impacted by our decision today. But what it will do is impact our power content label, like I mentioned. So on the right of the screen, I do have, this is a mocked up estimate of the power content label if that resource would be included. Nuclear is listed as a separate line item. It's not considered an eligible renewable resource in the state of California. So our renewable goals remain untouched. This would be a line item for nuclear, which is called out separately, similar to large hydrogen, which is another GHG-free resource that is not an eligible renewable resource. So the other part it would impact, like I mentioned, the greenhouse gas emissions intensity, which is also reported on our power content label, would be reduced having this allocation of a GHG-free resource added to the mix. And with that, I'll pass it over to Byron to talk through some of the other details of the implications.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. Board. Thanks for taking the hard part, Stephen. The complex stuff. Yes, my apologies. Is that not working through the mic? Can you all hear me okay? Louder. A few people asked me to speak louder. but I'll do my best here. Okay, next slide, please. And thanks, Stephen, again for the tee up. So I'll walk through a few of the calculations here, a little bit of the math. And Stephen got the regulatory side, and then the words. I'll get the numbers. As far as the allocation, and again, I think Stephen did a great job of outlining the question at hand. That really we're only here determining the carbon-free nuclear attributes that are to us for allocation, not the RA or obviously any operations of the plant itself. The allocation to us from PG&E, we actually received after posting board materials. We previously estimated 5%. I'll shout out to my team for getting pretty darn close to the 4.84 of the actual allocation that we've been offered. The math there, the total output of the allocation is about 18 million megawatt hours per year. So we end up with about 900,000 megawatt hours per year offered to us, again, cost-free and carbon-free nuclear attributes. That, as Stephen mentioned, would not flow into our Power 100. We only flow into our Power On and Power Base products, not Power 100 or Power 100 Green Plus products. So we reflect about 12%, slightly under 11 to 12% of our Power On and Power Base portfolios, and would thereby reduce greenhouse gas emission intensity of those Power On, Power Base portfolios by about 20%. The market value, we can't technically resell this allocation if we were to accept it, but the street value or the market value would be about $10 to $12 million per year. It's a dynamic and rather opaque market for these type of attributes, but our best guess is 10 to 12 million there. And then the reduction, we'll get to this in the kind of the strategy behind it on the next slide. The reduction in carbon-free hydro purchases. We currently historically have purchased 5% of our energy from hydroelectric carbon-free sources. If we were to take this nuclear allocation at no cost and then reduce our carbon-free hydro purchases from existing hydroelectric facilities, we'd save about $12 million a year there as well. So that's the basic math around it. If we can go to the next slide, please. To recap here, key points, and then the next slide we'll move to our recommendation. But the key points here, and again, really appreciate Stephen for walking us through so thoroughly. The first 3 points, unfortunately, are not up for debate or our election. We and our customers are already paying for the extension of Diablo Canyon. That was decided, as Stephen covered thoroughly, by state law, and there would be a separate non-bypassable charge. And unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. Diablo Canyon is an operational power plant. It's been online since '85. Continues to provide 2 gigawatts of baseload power to the California grid, and will remain operational through 2030. And again, there's no say we have there either. We have already received for 2025 and will continue to receive through 2030 the RA, the resource adequacy benefits. Significant value there in reduced obligations to our team and to our utility to provide those purchase contracts. We estimate that to be about $40 million per year. And so all that's already been decided and it's kind of out of scope for consideration tonight. Tonight, again, the only question to us is, do we accept the carbon-free or GHG-free nuclear attributes? If so, the final 4 bullet points here, just to recap, would reduce the carbon intensity of Power On and Power Base products by about 20%. If we pair them with a reduction in carbon-free purchases from hydro resources, would reduce power supply costs by about $12 million per year. And just to be very clear, with underlining, these would not impact Power 100 or Power 100 Green Plus products, which are only renewable energy, and nuclear is carbon-free but not renewable. And this would not impact, as Stephen mentioned as well, any of our carbon-free targets or contracts or commitments in the near term or the long-term contracts that we're making as we build a path to 2035. So on the next slide, I'll admit these are my layman's terms for recommendation. I'll defer to council or others for the formal recommendation as included in the agenda packet. But the recommendation here would be to accept at no additional cost the full allocation of 4.84% of Diablo Canyon output for 2025 to 2030, and then in doing so, reduce our carbon-free hydro targets to zero to save that additional money. So that concludes our presentation. Happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Now, on this one, we do have public comment. So first we'll start out that an email was sent to Community Power, and I'm not going to get this last name pronounced correctly, but Nina Babiarz. So that was emailed to each of the board members, and a hard copy has been presented to us here on the dais. And then we do have one individual that is going to speak here in chambers, Dr. Peter Anderson. Please come up, and you have up to 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Dr. Peter Anderson. I'm a member of the advisory board of San Diego Community Power, and I love San Diego Community Power. I think you do great work, and I'm proud to be a part of it. But let's be clear. This isn't some artificial attributes. This is accepting dirty nuclear power from Diablo Canyon. I urge you to reject this motion. Other CCAs in California have rejected these so-called attributes, which is dirty nuclear power. And likewise, the Alliance for Community Energy recommended rejecting power from Diablo Canyon. This is not about affordability. As you heard, our ratepayers are going to pay the same whether you vote yes or no on this. Okay, so it's not going to save our ratepayers one nickel if you reject this. It is very bogus that nuclear is GHG free. From mining to milling to transporting to dealing with nuclear waste in dangerous cement silos, it is hugely GHG intensive. So it is simply a fabrication to call it GHG free. It is not reliable power because Diablo Canyon over the years has shut down numerous times because it's a leaky, obsolete facility that was scheduled to be reduced. But it is an existential threat, second only to climate change for San Diego and for other locations. I served on and wrote the report, 140-page report for Sierra Club on nuclear waste. It is the most dangerous thing happening in America. 80 different waste sites are unprotected against terrorism, against earthquakes, against climate change. Tons of casks are stored at multiple sites, including Diablo and San Onofre. This is an ethical issue. It is simply wrong to accept dirty, dangerous nuclear power that we have no place to put the waste. No place is safe in America. And it's more than an ethical issue. It's a public relations issue. We're very proud of San Diego Community Power and the fact that they advertise themselves, and I'll quote it, clean, affordable, clean, renewable. Wind and solar are specifically mentioned. Nowhere on the website does it say nuclear. It has been proffered that we are a green power company, and to accept dirty, ungreen nuclear waste that endangers every Californian. A handful of this waste could render San Diego uninhabitable. And yet we continue with this myth that nuclear power is somehow clean. So I urge you to think carefully about this. Sierra Club urges you strongly to vote against this. Nuclear is not in our future. That $1.5 billion that went to San Diablo Canyon to keep it open could have built massive solar, wind, and geothermal power in California. Vote no on item 15. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, thank you for your comments. And then, Mari, do we have anybody online?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have someone online.
Please proceed. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Please state your name for the record.
Hi, Charles Langley. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Charles Langley, the Executive Director of Public Watchdogs, and I'm here to address agenda item 15, accepting GHG-free attributes from PG&E Diablo Canyon Nuclear Power Plant. To be clear, this so-called attribute is nuclear power. And while nuclear power may be GHG-free, the waste from it is highly radioactive, and it is not clean or green. It is the filthiest stuff on Earth. Now, forget for a moment that this is the same energy source that caused Chernobyl, Fukushima, and 3 Mile Island. But please remember this. The sole purpose of nuclear power was to create spent nuclear fuel to make bombs, missiles, and the radioactive bullets that are being used by the military even today, whenever our soldiers go into combat. It is literally a death machine, and electricity is simply a byproduct of nuclear power. So how deadly is this stuff? The plutonium in nuclear waste stays radioactive for 250,000 years. And the spent uranium is radioactive for millions of years and is deadly to all human life for tens of thousands of years. That's what you are supporting if you accept this deal. It is a nuclear death machine and a curse upon our children and tens of thousands of future generations. Thank you for listening, and I invite you to vote no on this particular issue.
All right, thank you. So thank you for the members of the public that weighed in. So with that, I'll now turn it over to the board members for any questions, comments, and a motion. That's Director McCann.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. I want to make sure that I understand this. It actually says that it reduces the cost by 12 million. Can you explain that a little more in detail and being able to, does that reduce the costs to our ratepayers?
Yeah, happy to take that, Director and Mayor. So the allocation, as we've covered, is a free allocation of the carbon-free attributes from PG&E. We are proposing to pair that with a strategy that we currently expect to and plan to buy 5% of our energy every year from carbon-free resources that are hydroelectric. If we get this 11 to 12% of carbon-free energy from the nuclear facility, from those attributes, then we would propose to reduce the incremental carbon-free purchases from the hydroelectric facilities. That should save us about $10 million per year.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
And I believe Director Aguirre has her hand up.
Thank you very much, Chair. So, we would be essentially saving in costs, right, by not having to purchase the hydroelectric power. I do share some of the concerns that have been expressed about this not being entirely a renewable source. But the option is there.
Where's your
right?
phone?
We already.
I was on my phone.
I'm sorry, I think somebody's unmuted.
Because the dogs were put away.
Oh, okay.
And so how did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I spoke.
I heard you.
Oh, good.
So, I think if we're gonna save in costs, I think I'm willing to support the item in the sense that it's already there. We already have it available to us. My only other concern that's outside of our mandate and jurisdiction is that the exploding cost of this plant that went from $5.2 billion to operate it 1 year to $11.8 billion the next year. It seems like it's so costly to keep it open. And I truly hope that, you know, we see the end of life for where it ends. This plant is well past its viable life, but because we already have this as an option, as a source, and it could potentially save our ratepayers money by saving us money, I think that I'm willing to support the item for those reasons. Thank you.
All right, Alternate Director Cazares.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you, Peter, for coming here in person. And Charles online for your public comment. I understand the concerns with this allocation and definitely with Diablo Canyon continuing to produce energy. However, since we are going to be running it regardless, I think that it is a great way to save our ratepayers money. And I think, you know, we saw in this last election, both locally and across the country, what people are most concerned about is their daily cost of living, and their electricity prices obviously play a role in that. I have personally experienced, you know, a month of not being able to pay my electricity bills and having to put it off to the next month. And that is something that is very common, especially for folks that have kids. And so I think it's really important. I also want to speak to the spent fuel, because I have worked personally with Spent Fuel Solutions Now, which is a coalition focused on getting solutions to nuclear waste, especially with San Onofre. And I know our Congress members, Scott Peters and Mike Levin, have worked really hard along with other Congress members to find solutions for this fuel as soon as possible. It's expensive and it takes time, but we did have a win earlier this year. I think we're going to continue to have wins in terms of storing this spent fuel. And so for those reasons, I will also be happy to support. Do we have a motion?
We do not yet have a motion.
Well, then I am happy to make the motion to approve this allocation from PG&E for 2025 through 2030 for those reasons.
All right, thank you. So by alternate director Cazares has moved the staff recommendation. I will second the motion and offer my own comments. I knew this was coming on the agenda. I do not take this question very lightly. It is a very important consideration of how we operate as community power. The mission that we have on there is a long-term goal. And a lot of the comments, and I appreciate the public comment, but a lot of that strikes me as whether you're for the creation of nuclear power plants or where you were advocating for the shutdown of this existing ones going forward. And I would certainly not be supporting any kind of RFP to secure new nuclear or to advocate for the new construction, at least on the technology that we have today. I see that as highly problematic. And I think, and Stephen or Byron, you can clarify, but I think there was a little bit buried in the lead that this also reduced our RA purchases by 40 million. And so we're talking about 52 million. And to the point that this doesn't save anybody any money, next month we're going to talk about rates. And we set rates by how much it costs to buy us the power, and whether it is the ongoing power requirements or whether it's the resource adequacy. So if we can take $52 million off the bottom line, that allows us to make our rates that much lower. And recognizing that our customers, which means you and me and everybody in our service territory, is paying for that right now. And so the only question is whether this would go accept the attributes. And I always hate the English language because we get so very sloppy to the point that was raised. When you look at the totality of nuclear power, no, it is not greenhouse gas free. Most of the things that we call greenhouse gas free, if you look at the total life cycle, there are greenhouse gases in that life cycle. It is the emissions part that we're doing. Is that correct? It's only that's the attribute, is the emission of the production phase. Is that a subtle nuancy? Is that kind of trying to spin something? I don't think so, because that is the only thing we're talking about. That power label content only talks about the emissions part of it. It does not talk about the life cycle of that, which is something that I hope we will address in the years ahead. But that is why I can be comfortable accepting this to our power content label. I know that when we talk about our rate conversation in January, that bottom line will be a little bit less. I can't repeat that enough. For people that are already paying for this, they're already paying for this. And when we look at our strategic plan, and some of you or maybe all of you have heard me say this, we have a strategic plan that has challenges and internal inconsistencies. We cannot hit everything in our strategic plan. And as alternate director Kazara said, cost is one of the more looming issues that we have to face in being able to deliver with Power Base, Power On, Power 100 every single day in our operations. And I appreciate the staff that really helped navigate that very difficult and delicate conversation. So with that, I don't see any more hands up. So we have a motion to move the staff recommendation by alternate director Gazaris, second by myself. Mari, please call the vote.
Director Aguirre?
Yes.
Director Casares?
Yes.
Director McCann? Alternate Director Bush?
Yes.
Chair LaCava?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I think this was one of the more challenging items we had in front of us, and I appreciate staff's detailed work and presentation. I appreciate the public coming out and talking about that going forward. With that, we'll move on to item 16, which is an update on 2025 projected rate changes. This will be an information item only and no motion will be required. And I'll turn it over. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Board of Directors. My name is Aaron Liu. I'm the Rates and Strategy Manager at Community Power. And great transition, so let's get right into rates. I'm here to really provide an update on what we'll see in terms of rate trajectories, as well as provide a refresher of our rate mechanics. So next slide, please. I'll start with the timeline. We are going to be getting into the rate development season. SDG&E released their latest rate-related filings in October and November, which provide us with important data in terms of creating Community Power's rates, as well as providing a glimpse into our competitiveness for next year. So in our scheduled timeline, we are bringing this update to the board tonight, and in January, we'll provide a more detailed update. But one item I do want to flag, right, fresh off the press. So SDG&E requested an extension to their final rate filing for the end of the year, as well as making their rates effective for next year. So normally their final rate filing would be filed at end of December, and their rates will be in effect January 1st. They request extension to the Public Utilities Commission because the commission has not adopted SDG's latest general rate case, and SDG wants to fold in the revenue requirement impacts of that general rate case into their rates in order to reduce rate changes in the next year. So that's something we're keeping a close eye on to monitor the commission's actions. Next slide, please. And in terms of our rate setting and rate development objectives, it's really all of these items. We've already talked about costs. Affordability is at the forefront, but we also want to balance all of that with maintaining our reserves, cost competitiveness, as well as rate stability, reducing rate volatility, and customer understanding of rates and their bills. Next slide, please. So what are the components of our rates? So we start with Community Power's generation or / commodity rates. Those are interchangeable terms. And then we have San Diego Gas and Electric's delivery rates, followed by the additional PCIA, which is the power charge indifference adjustment, which really is a above market cost of procurement for departed customers, as well as lastly, the franchise fee, which is a use of public streets and highways for SDG's infrastructure. Just want to note that the PCIA and franchise fees are assessed to all customers, both Community Power as well as San Diego Gas. Next slide, please. So here I want to talk about the rate setting mechanics, especially trifurcation, which is maintaining 3 sets of rates. I know it makes our jobs a little more complicated, but I think trifurcation is essential for making the rate structure fair and equitable, really driven by fairness and balance for all customers. Because if we only approach it from an equality point of view, it's really providing only sameness for our customers, but not really coming from an equity. So we just, bottom line, we want to make sure that the value proposition is balanced across our customers. And the next slide will kind of show us why from a mathematic point of view. So the vintaging mechanic is really what's driving having to maintain 3 sets of rates. If you look at the table on the right, you see that discount value proposition illustrative of a 3% discount because different customers enrolled into community power at different times. Thus, they have different vintages of the power charge indifference adjustment rate. That's why in order to make sure that we are providing a 3% discount to all customers, we have to create 3 sets of rates because the PCIAs are different for those customers. Next slide, please. And finally, in terms of a glimpse into SDG&E's proposed commodity rate projections for 2025, this table, let me summarize. The customer classes go down the columns. So you start with residential going down. And then to the left side of the table are SDG&E rates in terms of absolute value. And each of the columns present SDG&E rates in different times, starting in 2023, going towards projected timeframe in 2024. And then the right part of the table are the percentage differences between each of those time periods. I just want to kind of focus in beginning of 2025, SDG&E at a high level is proposing a 6.2% system average rate increase for their generation rate across all customers. Kind of the bottom line takeaway. And SDG&E cites that increase is driven by a balancing account adjustment as well as the general rate case revenue requirement impacts that I talked about earlier. Slide, please. So finally, in terms of next steps, staff will continue to monitor San Diego Gas and Electric's filings, as well as the commission's reactions to SDG&E's filings, as well as the request for extension, especially. And of course, the PCIA and SDG&E rates are not finalized until either end of the year or if the request is granted 1 month after that. So we'll again keep a close eye on that, and just want to kind of have the board think about and consider that our recommendation will still be continuing 3 sets of rates or the trifurcation to bring equity to all our customers. That concludes my update. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Mari, do we have any public comment?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, so I'll turn it over to the board again. This is an information item. No motion required, but if there's any questions or comments, I'll have one. In the crazy world of the power world, why isn't the CPUC's decision finalizing the rates? Why is their delay actually could result in the rates being slightly different? Does that question make sense?
Well, let me try to answer. I think the commission's delay, it could be just due to their resource constraints. So the general rate case was supposed to be implemented beginning of 2024. So beginning of this year, it's already been delayed 1 year. So now it's still being delayed. And in terms of the rates being different, I think the impacts of the general rate case, it won't be different. It will just be delayed. So those impacts, once adopted, will be folded into SDG&E's next rate change.
Okay. Okay, I think I may have misunderstood it, but who's still doing the delay? And okay. And I know you all will be closely monitoring the CPUC whether it'll respond to the 30-day delay or not, which will affect scheduling of our rate conversation. So thank you for the good work and the massive spreadsheets that you all must have to figure all this out in the different categories, et cetera, et cetera. The trifurcation, which I've always loved since the first time I learned about it going forward. But equity is important and trying to balance that is a good conversation. So not seeing, Director Aguirre, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. Just really quick, I just want to make a quick comment, commend staff for their due diligence and their ongoing monitoring of this, because it's so important that we remain competitive, but also continuing to build our reserves and provide excellent customer service. So thank you for all the work that you guys do.
Great. Thank you very much. Move on to the last item on the agenda, which is item 17, which is to consider approving the Marketing Community Initiative Partnership with TEGNA through December 31st, 2025 in an amount not to exceed $174,044 and authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute the agreement. And we'll turn it over. State your name for the record.
Thank you very much, Chair LaCava. I'm Jen LeBron, the Director of Public Affairs for San Diego Community Power. Today, we are requesting approval of a Marketing Community Initiative Partnership with TEGNA, you got that right, for 2025. Next slide, please. TEGNA is the parent company for local news stations CBS 8, KFMB, and NFB, or the CW. CBS 8 has a Working for Our Community partnership that highlights local nonprofits and the good work those nonprofits do for the San Diego region at large. Community Power entered into the Working for Our Community partnership in January 2024. Next slide, please. Some of the agreement highlights include quarterly, long-form segments on San Diego living that explain what Community Power is and how it makes an impact on San Diegans. We also have ads that run on CBS and CW TV stations and their streaming platforms that encourage customers to learn more about Community Power. We also are the title sponsor for a 30-minute special on CBS 8 Plus called Working for Our Community. Several nonprofits featured include the San Diego Rescue Mission and the nation's largest nonprofit credit counseling agency, Money Management International, which helps thousands of people get out of debt. We also have quarterly homepage takeovers that encourage visitors to visit the San Diego Community Power website where they can learn energy and money-saving tips. Next slide, please. So this slide features some of the creative elements that we have worked on in concert with TEGNA. Most of the items on this slide are examples of the homepage takeover on desktop and mobile platforms, as well as the homepage for Working for Our Communities, the feature. Also, that useful image in the middle is a screenshot from the Community Power ad that runs on TV as well as streaming platforms. On those streaming platforms, the ad targets households in our member agencies only to ensure that we are reaching the people we serve specifically. It also shows the initial 30-second ad and follows up with 15-second versions upon multiple viewings. Next slide, please. This slide shows that our Working for Our Community specials have aired 26 times throughout the first 9 months of this contract. We still have 3 months to go and expect these specials to air several more times. Next slide, please. Between the specials, advertisements, and website, we've had over 5 million impressions at a cost of approximately 2.5 cents per impression. The chart on the screen shows the percentage of impressions that we get based on time of day. So here, what it's really showing is that the morning hours are really the best times for engagement, with additional engagement happening during the evening and late news slots. Next, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. This slide is showing the zip codes with the largest audience shares. So across all of our member agencies, we have different varying levels of individuals who are watching. And so one of the things here is that you're seeing a lot of South Bay zip codes, certainly. And then we also have our other member agencies represented as well, with La Mesa, Encinitas, and National City. So I just wanted to reiterate that I'm presenting to you today, or the data that I'm presenting to you today is just capturing the first 3 quarters of our partnership with TEGNA. In January, we'll be receiving an additional report about the totality of the impact of the first year of our partnership. We believe that one of the biggest benefits of this partnership is that it provides meaningful education opportunities that are for the entire public across platforms that are free to access. Next slide, please. So this partnership is part of the broader San Diego Community Power marketing strategy to meet our customers where they're at across diverse platforms. While we do not currently have sentiment data specific to this partnership, we have had positive interactions at a variety of in-person outreach events from our customers who have said that they have seen our commercial or featured interviews, including having our two public outreach coordinators who are featured in that commercial getting a lot of, hey, aren't you the guys I saw on TV? So based on the success we have had so far with this partnership, we are requesting that the board approve a 1-year partnership agreement with Tegna for the same amount that we paid last year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jen, for the presentation. Mari, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. And as you heard, there is a staff recommendation, so we'll need a motion. Of course, any questions or comments you might have, I'll turn it over to the board. Director McCann.
Thank you very much. We have so much inflation, but getting the same price, I think, is a good value. And it seems like we've had very good success with this. So I'll go ahead and make the motion for item number 17. So move.
We have a motion by Director McCann.
I'll second.
And we have a second by Director Geary. Any other questions? Yes. Alternate Director.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen, for your presentation on this. I just wanted to point out that earlier, Lee shared that the average cost or the standard is 7 cents per impression, and you shared that this is 2.5 cents per impression. And so you're getting a hell of a deal. So thank you. Happy to support.
All right, great. And, you know, for all this, we have a TV star every day at our board meetings kind of thing. So, but very good work in all seriousness. This is an extraordinary kind of partnership. Very much appreciate the effort that it takes to pull this together and the results it's producing. So thank you very much. So again, we have a motion by Director McCann to move the staff recommendation and a second by Director Aguirre. Mari, please call the roll.
Director Aguirre?
Yes.
Director Cáceres?
Yes.
Director McCann?
Aye.
Alternate Director Bush?
Yes.
Chair LaCava?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So that concludes our regular agenda. We'll go to reports and we'll start out with our CEO, Karen Burns.
Good evening, board members. Next slide, please. Okay, so over the past couple of weeks, San Diego Community Power has helped our local communities welcome in the holiday season. Our Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Eric Washington, recently joined Mayor Aguirre for the holiday tree and Pier Plaza lighting in Imperial Beach. Also this weekend, we'll be joining our local communities for another tree lighting at National City's Kimball Holiday Celebration, where the chair of our Community Advisory Committee, Matthew Vasilakis, will be speaking. We also supported December 9th, San Diego's largest free holiday festival, held last weekend at Balboa Park. We helped power the celebration by sponsoring the event's Ferris wheel and light tunnel. Next slide, please. This month, we also sponsored the San Diego State Legislature delegation reception in Sacramento. Our senior legislative manager, Patrick Welch, and local government affairs manager, Ashley Rodriguez, attended the reception, which welcomed the newly elected officials who will soon serve as the voice of our local communities on statewide policy issues, including energy affordability, customer programs, and power procurement. Next slide. And just last week, we held our Power 100 Champion Celebration, where we connected with local businesses and organizations who have committed to 100% renewable energy. The event was held at Bivouac Cider Works Adventure Lodge in North Park. Bivouac is one of our Power 100 champions, and founder Laura Worm, as well as Chair LaCava and I, each spoke about the value of being a Power 100 champion. The chair of our Community Advisory Committee, Matthew Vasilakis, also helped us honor our newest Power 100 champions by awarding them certificates recognizing their commitment to powering a cleaner, greener San Diego. Next slide. And we are still hiring. We are currently interviewing for a rates analyst, a director of portfolio management, an associate director of IT, and an origination manager. And then in the new year, on January 14th, we'll be welcoming Ruby Levy, Assistant General Counsel, and Amy Blitz, IT Systems Analyst, to the Community Power team. And before we conclude, I'd like to congratulate Chair LaCava on his unanimous selection as the City of San Diego Council President. Congrats. I'd also like to congratulate Councilmember Lauren Casares for her election to the City Council of La Mesa and thank her for her dedicated service to our Community Advisory Committee. I'd also like to express my gratitude to each of you, our staff, and for the great year that we've had at Community Power. As we look into 2025, just want to take a brief moment to reflect on what some of the key things we've accomplished over the past year. We've remained focused on responding to our customers' needs by adding a new product service. We have worked to increase rate affordability and stability. We've successfully launched our solar battery savings program and began laying the groundwork for the San Diego Regional Energy Network that is launching next year. We grew our reserves and our renewable portfolio, contracting over 1 gigawatt of solar and 1.5 gigawatts of battery storage over the past 2 years. We made strides in our internal strategic planning to ensure that we have a strong foundation as our organization continues to grow, both in size and in impact. So again, a big thank you to our board of directors, our community advisory committee, and our staff. Your hard work, your passion, and your dedication shaping a sustainable future here in San Diego. Thank you.
There's also an opportunity for the directors. So I'll jump in. Thank you, Karen, for those kind words. For those of you who don't know, thank you, Karen, for those good words. As council president, I just wanted to say that twice, just to really. Stepping up as council president is a pretty significant increase in responsibility. I think most people know at the city of San Diego, being a council member is a full-time job, which I don't actually think compares to the other cities that have to have a regular job and step up as council members to serve their cities. But I'm very excited about the year ahead for that. And for those of you who may not be aware, this is my third year on Community Power and my second year as chair. And so I have reached a very difficult and bittersweet decision that I'm going to be stepping down from the board. Fear not, this is not my last meeting. I'm not going to let you get away that easy. So the rates conversation that we will have in January, I thought I owed it to Community Power to stick around for that rather than bring somebody new into the conversation. So I will be here in January for one last meeting. And as a heads up, January is also when we elect the new chair and vice chair of the board. So want to put that thought out there across the board members that are here going forward. And for any of you who have any thoughts or questions about whether you want to make that a decision, I'm happy to talk with you about the time commitment. I can tell you it is one of the more satisfying assignments that I've had. The weekly conversations with Karen are always uplifting and so very educational. And the work with the Community Power staff just goes beyond compare. My City of San Diego employees are pretty amazing too. So, but the Community Power folks are great going forward. But again, I'm on all seriousness, if you're interested in running for the position, I'm happy to talk about the time commitments or at least how it would for me. So with that, not seeing any other directors with their hand up, this does bring us to the end of our agenda. And I appreciate everyone's participation today. We are adjourned. The next regular meeting of the Board of Directors of San Diego Community Power will be on January 23rd, 2025. We are adjourned. Happy holidays, everyone.